Data interpretation is one of the most important skills that professionals can have today. We're in the era of big data, and it's an era that has advanced very quickly through several stages. When the term big data first started being used, no one was really sure what it meant. Then you saw companies get to understand big data as they began to understand what the Internet of Things was capable of. Industrials helped lead the way. The concept of putting a sensor on parts of a machine that were constantly in motion was one that people could grasp. You could track the performance of a machine and use the data gathered to improve performance in the future. At that point, business leaders were understanding what big data was and how it operationally could impact their business. But this realization was at the frontier, thriving at the startups who were creating the technology and at the large companies who could afford to invest big dollars to implement it. These technologies still needed to be scaled. And now we're reaching a stage where big data begins to scale to more companies across the globe. And there's beginning to be an understanding that it's not just operations that are achieving an ROD, a return on data. There are opportunities to use big data to impact strategy at even more levels of an organization. But to do so, you need someone skilled at interpreting data. Now, there are really two types of data. There's hard structured data and soft unstructured data. I'll use the example of industrial machines to talk about hard data. You can take a windmill and track its performance under certain conditions. Does its performance change when the wind reaches a certain speed? When the temperature reaches a certain level, high or low? Is performance impacted after a certain number of hours of use? All of that data can be used by scientists and engineers to improve future performance of the machine. But is that data being made available to strategists within an organization that can do more with the data than just impact performance of a capital resource? Is that data being used to impact business decisions at a corporate or a board level? Before it can be, it needs to be interpreted into a language more appropriate for business leaders than for engineers. You're also now seeing more companies working to mine soft, unstructured data. AI is being used to find commonalities in online forums or survey responses, and similarly to monitor social media feeds. And it's readable, this data, on a data point by data point basis, but interpretation is needed to help business leaders make strategic decisions on the sum of those data points. While there are some companies that have technology where AI can interpret some of those data points, this is a great opportunity for Brains and Bytes to start to work together. And let me give you a couple of examples of how businesses are collecting soft, unstructured data. If you play fantasy football, on some platforms, you get an AI-produced report on how your team does each week. Similarly, in the financial services sector, investment research reports are now being generated with artificial intelligence. And the problem with these examples and with other examples of artificial intelligence analyzing soft data is twofold. First, the AI-generated reports get stale very quickly. It's formulaic analysis that after a few weeks of reading becomes less and less interesting because you're seeing the same kind of analysis over and over again. Secondly, AI is not going to be able to effectively answer questions from leadership within your organization or from your customers. Whether your leadership is a fantasy football general manager or your customer is an institutional investor, AI lacks the nuance that human interaction brings to the table. Again, this is an area where it's not a zero-sum game on technology replacing human workers. It's truly an area that will benefit from a coming together, a marriage of brains and bytes. I've written and lectured on the impact technology is going to have on the workforce. I don't believe AI is going to take strategists' jobs away, but the strategists that will continue to be successful are going to be the ones that combine the analysis that they undertake of their own volition with the research generated by artificial intelligence and use those two avenues of research to improve on their recommendations that they deliver to business leadership. Interpreting, whether you're interpreting data or interpreting English for a Chinese audience, is two things. It's understanding what the speaker is saying or what the data is telling you, and then it's delivering the interpretation to the audience in a clear and an accurate way that they can understand that is true to the source data. As we continue in the big data era, there's an opportunity to realize a return on data, not just on a piece of capital equipment or on social media marketing efforts, but data interpreters are going to be the leaders that can help companies achieve an organization-wide ROD, or return on data.